Let's try with the notation software first. We're going to take a very simple idea. It's actually one of the simplest you can think of, which would be don't clap this one back. We're going to try to use that one to build a little composition for a string quartet. Very well, to start with this, I just input the rhythm don't clap this one back, which would be crochet, crochet, quaver, quaver, crochet. Let's listen to it. Brilliant. I decided to go for a rhythm that is not too fast so that I can work confidently on all the elements of my composition. When you're composing something fast, it's a good idea to start from a slow tempo anyway, so that you can just look after the little details. So let's start with a very moderate dynamic as well, like a mezzo piano in this case. We're going to stay in C major and in 4/4 to avoid any complications. Obviously, you can go in any other key, but I recommend starting from something simple. It doesn't have to be C major, but for this video, I'm going to start with that. As I was saying earlier, ostinato is a great way to get musical ideas because it brings everything down to a single rhythm. Now, your composition is always a balance between unexpected and expected. You can look at it like this. You need to create something that is predictable enough for your audience to come on a journey with you, but it needs to be surprising enough that it's not boring. So if you do something that is too boring, obviously you're going to lose the attention of your audience. If you do something that is too unpredictable, you will probably lose your audience on the way. So you need to find the right balance between these two parts. And the ostinato can represent the repetitive side of this deal. That also means, because you have something that anchors you to something that is predictable, it will open up the possibility for you to explore things harmonically, for example. If your ostinato rhythm will keep your audience in a certain mindset, then you can explore maybe melodical lines a little more, or you can decide to be a little more daring in terms of harmonic choices. For example, let's start with this cello part being repeated over and over a few times. We're going to start with 4 bars. We're going to let the cello start by itself, and then we're going to get the viola to start after, quietly, creating a little bit of a clash. So we're going to go for some sort of dissonance. The cello is going to play a C and the viola is going to play a D. Let's listen to the effect of this. Can you hear the effect of that? Now, even though it's a dissonance, which would probably be a little too much if it was on its own, because of the ostinato pattern under it, it becomes manageable. Because I like very much the sound of this little dissonance, let's try to explore different opportunities here. So let's get now the violin 2 to come in and play maybe a G. And let's repeat that a couple of bars and see how far we get with that. Let's listen to it. Great. Now that we have this nice strong effect, now that we have this dissonance placed in front of the audience, let's expand a little bit and let's see if we can find another note for the violin 1 that creates the same type of tension. For example, we could go for a B. Let's listen to it. As you can hear, it's very unresolved and it's creating tension, and you're creating the conditions for something else to happen. Now, your audience, after 4 bars like this, will expect something to happen. So let's try to resolve this chord into something that is maybe pleasant and calm. So we're going to have the cello playing a lone C. we're going to have the viola playing an E, the violin 1 playing a G, and the top violin playing another C. This is the first time that you introduce your key, so after this chord everything is going to be clearly in C major. Let's listen to it again. Perfect. Once you land on that chord, you might as well make it nice and long. We're going to put a nice fermata on it so that the ensemble can sit on it and establish the key. Once we start again, because this is a video about ostinato, let's use the ostinato again, but this time let's make it pizzicato. And we're going to get the cello to repeat this line a few times. Now, the risk that we have right now is that there is no memorable content to our composition. So what I did there is create just 5 bars of introduction in which I establish a little bit of tension and then I make the key extremely clear for my audience. Now, after that, I think we need to find something a little more interesting, like a melodic line. And finding a melodic line that fits beautifully with the ostinato will make your composition much more fluid and much easier to follow. When you're looking for a melody that sits beautifully on an ostinato line, I recommend putting the ostinato in a loop so that you can listen to it over and over again and try to picture some sort of very simple melody in your mind. Remember, it's much easier to make a melody from easy to complicated rather than the other way around. So if you start with something very, very basic, decorating your melody is going to take a second. So let's take this ostinato line played in pizzicato by the cello and let's repeat it a few times so that we can get used to it. I'm doing this in real time with you, so I have absolutely no idea what's about to happen. Let's listen to it. Brilliant. For some reason in my head, a violin melody pops up. So from the second bar, dun ti dum, I'm gonna make it a dotted rhythm. Dun ti dum. Dun ti dum. Da di da di da dum. Dun ti dum. Da da di dun ti da di da dum. Dun ti di dum. Dum. There you go. Let's listen to it. I'm not too fond of this part here. Dun ti da da di da da di dum pi dum. There you go. A very simple melody, very clearly in C major, that interacts beautifully with the ostinato line. Maybe we can have at this point some contribution, some rhythmical contribution from the other two instruments so that we leave the space for the melody to just do its job. So let's listen to it. I imagine the other two instruments in a pizzicato doing a very simple rhythm. Dun, tin, dun, tin. Something like this. Again, pizzicato, just to give the space to the melody. So I could do... So if I take this and I get it done by the viola as well, 2 notes lower, let's listen to it. I think it works quite nicely. So let's repeat this line, the following bar. Maybe we can get this melody repeated by another instrument after. So if we copy this and we get it done by the violin 2 this time, I'll tell you what, why don't we get it done by the violin 1 and the violin 2 harmonizes it. So following the key of C major, we're going to write the same melody, but instead of starting from a G, we're going to start from an E. Let's have a look. G, because A is not part of a C major chord. And we're going to take the pizzicato away this time. We're going to get rid of this part here to give the player the time to move from pizzicato to the bow, arco. There you go. So from here it's going to go back to arco. Arco means bow. There you go. So let's listen to it. It's not the best composition ever, but it's very, very logical. So what we're going to do, we're going to take this part here and get it repeated by the viola. Because now we have this very, very well established, and because we created a melody that is very, very basic and there's absolutely no way your audience doesn't understand what's going on, I think this is a good moment to introduce something completely different. Why don't we try to introduce something that is unexpected? It could be, and again, I have absolutely no idea, but it could be something that maintains the C in the cello part, but changes dramatically in what the other instruments are doing. So let's have a look. For example, I'm going to listen to it again, which is something I recommend you doing a lot while you compose. Listen to it and then let your imagination go and try to follow it. Brilliant. Let's experiment with this for a second. Right now we are in C major. How about keeping the C in the bass clef, but now we make that note the third of A flat. So it could be a nice idea, it could be a little dark, but it might work in a setting like this. Let's see if we can do that. So in order to establish that, let's get the note that we need to establish that very, very clearly. So on a downbeat, we could do quaver, quaver. Let's now choose 2 notes that belong to the A flat major key, and let's apply to the other instruments, to the instruments that we have. So in this case, we can take this up and we can do it like... if we make the two A flats. And now it would be really cool to copy the melody, but changing it completely to something that goes in A flat major. So A flat, B flat, A flat. E flat. A flat again. Let's listen to it. It might be an absolute disaster, but we are practicing. I think it works quite nicely. Now, I don't know if I would end up choosing this version, but why not? We just decided to keep the C as your pivot, and we're going to keep the C as your anchor to reality, and that allows you to go a little far away in terms of harmonic choices. So instead of staying in C major, all of a sudden we decide to keep the C note that is in common with A flat major and just move the rest of the composition around it. Now let's finish this, making it a little polished. The same thing we can do here. Just to maintain a little bit of a form, we can try to keep the same melody that we selected for the violin 1. But this time we're going to give it to the viola actually, while the violin 2 keeps doing its thing. So instead of doing, we go down to E flat. E flat, F, E flat, C, and this is a C, E flat, C. And once again, we're going to put arco there. That's the one. So let's listen to it again. I did make a few mistakes, so let's polish it now. Remember that in this phase of your work, it's very easy to leave stuff behind. Try not to be too panicky about leaving things behind. In order to come up with something creative, you need to get your hands dirty, and that's perfectly acceptable. And even if it sounds odd and not completely polished, the editing side of things will take care of that. For now, try to go to the essence of things. So here I forgot to put the arco, and also I didn't do the voicing very well here. Now it should be fine. Let's listen to it. And at this point, in order to take your audience with you, there's nothing more satisfying than offering your audience something that you already gave them before. It's going to give them a sense of accomplishment, recognizing the melody that you played for them early on. So let's go back to the original one, the one in C major. And we just place it there. So if I would have to mark this, it would be the first 5 bars introduction, then we have melody taking place a letter A, and then the melody goes into a funny place in letter B, and then it goes back to where it was, a letter C. Let's listen to it. Re-establish the melody. Now it goes to a funny place. And we can repeat it once again. Make it absolutely undeniable that we are going back to the original melody. And then we could finish this little composition with a chord that you already used there to establish once again your key. Now, this is by no means a finished composition or one that I would try to sell. It's a good little exercise on how to use the ostinato line. And remember, taking those limitations as advantages for your own composition is the right approach to this kind of stuff. Let's listen from the beginning to the very end. Just by listening to this, there are 3,000 things that are going through my mind. For example, I didn't put the arco in the last chord. I didn't put any dynamics whatsoever. I would harmonize this section where it goes, the B section, slightly differently. I'm not very happy with this in particular. But again, this is not to come up with the best composition ever. And the editing phase is time consuming. And we're going to have other videos talking about that section. For now, I just wanted to give you a good example on how to use the ostinato using a notation software. You're going to find a copy of this project just under this video in the description.